out of Persia. Many of the Roman prisoners who had lived for 30 years in Parthia were contented there and had no desire to leave when they were given permission to do so. Many who did return found that the ways and gods of Rome now seemed very strange to them. They had much to tell of the more familiar customs of the Parthians. They told of Mithra, the Persian sun god, whom they had learned to worship. They described the fire altars, which were kept forever burning and tended by the Persian priests or magi. They told of miracles and wonders they had seen performed by those celebrated wise men of the East, those magi, whose fame had long since spread to Rome, and whose name and skill today still live on in our word magician. On December 25th, about the time of the Saturnalia, when the Roman streets were thronged with merrymakers, those who had lived in the East thought of how the people there would be celebrating the birthday of the sun god. Rejoicing in his yearly triumph over the darkness of winter, they would see in this victory promise of the final triumph of light and goodness over all darkness and evil. For that was the teaching of the old Persian prophet Zoroaster, who had founded the wisdom of the Magi. Zoroaster, one of the greatest prophets of the world, had lived and taught in Persia about 600 B.C., when Rome was but a village. In those early days, the Persians, like the Romans, had worshipped spirits in the world about them, the sky, the fire, the thunder, the earth, and the sun, whom they called Mithra. But while the Romans had continued to add more and more gods, Zoroaster, to the worship of one God, a spirit of light and goodness, to whom he gave the name Ahura Mazda. All the world, said Zoroaster, was a battleground between good and evil, and every man born in this world must choose on which side of that battle he would fight, that of Ahura Mazda and his angels of light, or that of Angra Mainyu, the devil, and all darkness and evil. Good thoughts, good words, and good deeds were the weapons of those soldiers who would fight for the good spirit, and work was the way in which they served him best. A man's daily work was his prayer. Every act of his life was part of his religion, as all living should be. In the Avesta, the sacred Bible of the Persians, may still be read the teachings of Zoroaster. There it is told how the reward for a good life on earth comes to a man after he is dead. On the third night after death, when dawn appears and the sun is rising, the soul enters the way made by time, open both to the wicked and the righteous. At the head of the Chinvad Bridge, the holy bridge made by Mazda, they ask for their reward. Then the fiend carries off in bondage the souls of the wicked devil worshippers who have lived in sin. But it seems to the soul of the faithful ones as if a wind were blowing from regions of the south, a sweet-scented wind, sweeter than any other wind in the world. And it seems to him as if his own conscience were advancing to him in that wind, like a fair maiden, white-armed and beautiful. And the soul of the faithful one addresses her, asking, "What maid art thou, who art the fairest maid that I have ever seen?" And she, being his own conscience, answers him, "O thou youth of good thoughts, good words, good deeds, of good religion, I am thy own conscience. I was lovely, and thou madest me still lovelier. I was fair, and thou madest me still fairer through this good thought, this good speech, and this good deed of thine." And so, following the maiden, the soul of the faithful one rises above the Chinvad Bridge, through one paradise after another, until he enters the seventh heaven of endless light and into the presence of Ahura Mazda himself and his holy angels. Zoroaster had been killed by one of the jealous priests of the old religion, which he had tried to purify. Left without their leader, the Magi had let the religion slip from the high standards which Zoroaster had set. They had loaded it with mysterious rituals, added star lore learned from the Chaldeans or native priests of Babylon, and brought back the worship of Mithra, the old god of the sun. Mithra was now to be worshipped as the son of Ahura Mazda, who had been sent to earth to help win the war against evil and save mankind from being overcome by darkness and death. The legend says that Mithra slayed a mystic bull whose life-giving blood was supposed to have fertilized the good earth and caused it to bring forth fruit and grain. Mithra seemed much nearer and much more real to ordinary people than the pure spirit Ahura Mazda. They were eager to be baptized in the blood of the bull, become his soldier in the war against evil, and so earn life everlasting in paradise, that seventh heaven of bliss. So Mithraism had grown popular and spread beyond the limits of Persia into Armenia, Syria, and all of Asia Minor. Now it was being carried to Rome. Within the next 100 years, sun worship would become the leading religion of the Romans. Only with difficulty would it be made to give way to the next and last Oriental religion to be adopted by them. But as the fires on its altars died away, this Persian religion was to leave behind as a heritage to future generations their Christmas holiday and Sunday. For in the years to come, when the early Christian fathers were uncertain on which day of the year to celebrate the birth of Jesus, it was to be decided that it would be wise to use that day, which had long been held sacred to the sun. And as the early church father, St. John Chrysostom, was to say, "And we do rightly so? The worshippers of Mithra call this December 25th the birthday of the sun. But is not our Lord the Sun of righteousness?" And so a new way of life was to blend into the old, and the old to be gradually forgotten. And that is the way the world grows. One civilization learns and grows upon another, reaching towards the truth.